Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to the creek. I am here at the side of Minter Creek here on the Key Peninsula, doing our first weekly salmon check-in, looking around to see if we see any signs of fish or if conditions are right for fish to be here. So thanks for tuning in. If you want to mention in the comments maybe where you're watching from, that's always interesting for us to know. And as always, we are a nonprofit, so any stars that you give through this, or if you want to make a donation, you can do that right on our website, harborwildwatch.org. And all of that goes to support environmental education like this. So let me flip this around so that you can see a little bit of where we are in the world. This is Minter Creek. It's a relatively short creek that flows through the Key Peninsula and empties out into Minter Bay, down kind of right over there. And this is the site of a state-run fish hatchery right here. So this is a facility where they help to boost the salmon population for fishermen. And we're seeing a little bit of fish activity, which is great. This time of year, we could see any number of fish species. So it is an odd year, which means it is a year that pink salmon are returning home. They spend about 18 months in the ocean and then return each fall in the odd years. But we're getting a little bit late in the season for pinks, although there certainly are some still making their way up. It's also a stream that supports Chinook salmon or king salmon, they're also known as. They tend to be kind of late summer spawners. So August is about their peak time of year, but occasionally we do see them all the way up into November and beyond. And it's a little bit early for chum salmon, which usually arrive in the first or second week of November. So we are in the right spot to potentially see some fish. It is high tide right now, which is why the stream looks so swollen. It's also, we received quite a bit of rain. I think we got over 2 inches of rain here on the peninsula yesterday alone. So our waters here are flowing very nicely. And one thing that I love to point out is just how deeply colored the stream color is. It is like tea. You've got your iced tea here. Now the glare from the beautiful blue sky above us. Don't usually get to see that at the end of October, so we'll take it. But this deep, deep, dark color is basically tea. It is leaves that have fallen from the surrounding watershed that are leaching their tannins out into the water. So don't drink it though. It does not taste like your iced tea. That would be a bad idea. But we can see that the creek is just slowly flowing by. It's not a raging torrent or anything like that. It's kind of a meandering little creek here. But as we get more and more rain on land and in the watershed, it's going to end up flowing down and down and down, and it'll end up here and then out ultimately to the Salish Sea and then the Pacific Ocean, which is the same path that the juvenile salmon are going to take. So whether they come up and spawn naturally in the creek or they are spawned artificially in the hatchery, the eggs and when the small fish hatch out, they're going to imprint on this very creek. And the smell of these particular tannins from these trees that have been here for decades and decades are going to imprint on the salmon and help them to find their way back. So because the tide is really high, this would be a great time for salmon to be making their way upstream because it's a lot deeper water. When the tide is low here at this location, the creek is only maybe about 6 or 8 inches deep. And that means it's a lot more work for these fish to make their way upstream. Another thing that I am noticing is there's still quite a bit of leaves still on the trees. Some of them are bare, but that means they're going to continue to fall. And that's going to illuminate this creek a little bit. So salmon enjoy very covered creeks. They like all the evergreens and conifers that grow over the edges of the stream banks that helps to shade the creek. Now that we're getting into October and November weather, it's not as crucial that the creek is shaded because the sun, even on a bright sunny day, is not going to warm this creek very much. But that's important, especially in the summer months when it does get very, very warm out. So I like to pay attention to what the vegetation is doing, and kind of right about the time that all of these leaves are gone is when the salmon start really making their way up. So yeah, this creek is an interesting one because it is both a wild stream and a very kind of populated place. You can see there's a couple of fisher people over there, trying to maybe capture a couple of fish. There's a few other folks spread out along the river until they get up to where the hatchery actually limits. You can't go past the hatchery. But this is a public space. You're more than welcome to park along the road and make your way over. Just, be careful. It is slippery and treacherous occasionally. But yeah, it's a great place to come look for salmon or look for evidence of salmon. And I've already seen a handful of birds that have been kind of swooping through this area, a number of gulls, even some mallard ducks. And I thought I spied an eagle, but it kind of ducked right out of you. So I'm not quite positive on that. But I have seen them here in the past. And all those animals, those predators, are going to take advantage of the salmon as they die and spawn. So they will eat both the salmon's eggs and the salmon carcasses that are left here along the side of the creek. And speaking of, I actually have this lovely salmon spine and head here. Not much left of it because definitely a predator has probably pulled this up along the side of the creek, and it's been eaten. All the flesh is gone. All the fins are rotted away for the most part. There's still a little bit of tail fin left there. You can kind of see those little rays of cartilage there that make up the fish's tail. We can see the really cool, very delicate vertebra. And then the head is pretty much all that's left. There's a few rib bones here. I always tell people, if you're eating salmon and that somebody gives you first choice of what piece of fish you're going to eat, go for tail section because I won't have those ribs. The flesh is the same. But this salmon carcass here is showing off a really, really cool feature that spawning salmon have, and that is their teeth. So you don't really think of teeth when you think of salmon, but if you've ever seen one at the end of their life, when they're getting ready to spawn, those teeth are a good kind of indicator that they're ready to reproduce. They don't use them for eating though. They use them for kind of getting the best position in the stream, picking out the best location to lay eggs, and then competing for females. So this to me looks like a female salmon. A male salmon would have an even more hooked nose called a kype, whereas females tend to have a little bit less of a hook, although they do change from their ocean going phase. Of course, there's no colors left on this carcass, but if it were a freshly dead specimen, we'd be able to observe their spawning coloration as well. And then that would help me identify what species it is. As it is right now, I'm not very up on my salmon carcass identification. I'm sure somebody knows how to tell the difference between alive, or not alive and a dead, but between species when they're dead. But I do not have that skill set just yet. But this is a great sign. It means that salmon have made their way back up, and we can expect more salmon as we go. There goes some seagulls zooming around, calling to one another. There's another gull coming in. I always said if I was going to be a bird, I think I would choose some type of gull because they're just very smart birds and they're able to go inland and on water, and I think they're really beautiful. Oh yeah, they're coming in, breaking some branches. Love it. So yeah, here's our first kind of peek into the creek. We will try to do this for you each Friday. Try to come out and see what's happening creekside. The tides will be different. The leaves are gonna fall from the trees. We'll see different predators as we transition to more of the chum salmon season. And hopefully we'll get to see some live fish. On a day like today, you can't really see much in this water at all. There's a lot of glare and the water is very, very dark, stained by those leaves. So thanks for tuning in with us today. We'll come back next week and see what we can see. Hopefully some more fish, fingers crossed. I did wear my lucky fish earrings today to try to hopefully call out to the fish and let them know that we're there, we're cheering them on. But next week we'll probably stand a better chance of seeing some more fish, especially if this wet weather continues. That is kind of salmon's cue to make their way back into the streams when the rivers swell up again. Oh, I heard a splash. Not sure if it was a fish or if it was a fisherman. I'm not sure. But I heard a splash, so something is moving down there in the water. But thanks for tuning in with us this week. We'll come back at you on Friday.